Hi, very lovely to meet you finally. Actually, well, kind of face to face. Mel, JB, how are you?
Wonderful. Great to meet you too, Cate. I feel like I've seen your name so many times and, we've emailed and everything else, but nice to put a face to the name.
Yeah. So behind the wall, you've been behind the wall.
Yes.
So first of all, before we get started, I'd just like to say a huge, big thank you for being part of what we're doing. I was looking back in emails and I think you started purchasing the mats in 2020.
Yeah, so that's when our studio opened. So that sounds about right. Yeah.
So that means you've been going for 4 whole years. When's your anniversary? What date?
It was the 31st of January.
Yeah, we remember that well because we said to people, we're opening in January. And then it was going to be the 1st of January, then it was the middle of January, and eventually, technically, 31st of January, still January.
You were not lying. You were a man of his word and a woman of hers.
Absolutely.
Well, congratulations for keeping a studio up and running for 4 years. So 4 years ago, that was just in the middle of COVID. Is that correct?
Well, it was just kicking off. So we had January 31st, 2020, we opened, and then it was to the day 7 weeks later, we closed for 8 weeks and pivoted to online in our infancy, which was a very interesting time. We were very, very lucky in WA. The one sort of, I guess, benefit to being the most isolated city in the world is that, we actually were not really affected too badly by COVID over, those first few years. So we were kind of able to get back to a semblance of normality by the time, we had reopened after that initial 8-week closure. So yeah, it was full on though.
Wow. And have you got a home-based studio or do you rent a premise?
No, we actually bought a building. So we purchased the Mundaring Freemasons Lodge. So we bought the Masons Lodge or the Masonic Lodge from the Masons. So they built it in, it's nearly 100 years old now.
Yeah, 1926 it was.
1926.
Yeah.
They opened. So, one owner only used on Sundays and we purchased it from them for a steal. Property over here, if you buy in the right spots, are still cheap. And it's the most equally amazing, beautiful, stunning building and a giant pain in the backside because it's 100 years old and, it comes with all the challenges a 100-year-old building has.
Yeah, I always joke that she likes to, every few months she's like, I'm hungry, I need another $1,000.
Oh, things start to go right, don't they? Creak and crack.
Just playing catch up all the time.
The benefits of owning our own building are so massive. Anyone that knows the challenges that come with leasing a commercial property or any property, big benefit.
Yeah, well, that's been a while for me since I ran my yoga studio, but I run something called Yoga Hive too, and so I'm in constant contact with yoga studios everywhere. And we lost 2/3 of the yoga studios during that period. So, it's a big and tricky period for our yoga community. Very harsh.
Very challenging.
Yeah. Never mind. Here we are. And so tell me a little bit about why you decided to start a studio. What was the motivating force?
Great question. Mel, when we met quite some time ago, Mel was practicing a lot of yoga and was interested in becoming a teacher and just hadn't had the financial wasn't in that position to be able to go and do a training. And then we got together. Mel was living in Sydney, I was living in Perth. We did long distance for a year and then she ended up deciding to come over to Perth. And then because we were living together, finances were a little bit stronger. She went and did her training and loved it and immediately started teaching at some other studios and out of a local hall. And by that point, I was practicing as well. So not long after, about a year later.
I think you were like 6-8 months after.
Yeah, it wasn't long afterwards. I went and did the same training. And then we kind of had an idea. We're like, oh, it'd be nice to open a studio one day.
One day in a few years, as in like now, you know, like around this time was really what we were thinking.
And where we live in the hills, it's a pretty small community, like over a big area, relatively small community. And Mundaring is one of the hubs of this sort of hills community. And this building came up for sale, and we looked at it. Friends of ours, our property oracle, we call her. She always tells us where we should buy things. She said, you need to go and have a look at this. And we had a look through it with her and her partner. And we're like, it's
perfect.
It's perfect.
Wow.
An opportunity like that's never going to come up again in the location and
the
feel of this building, even though it was so run down. Like we had to put a lot of time and money into kind of bringing it back up to scratch again. But even then, the walls were blue and cracked, and there were all these hideous metal fans and fluoros and windows painted out because it was the Freemasons, you know.
All the most sketchy wiring you could ever possibly imagine.
That doesn't seem right. That bit of sketchy wiring. Like, aren't they meant to be very, very good at stones and mortar and bricks and wiring?
Well, I think it might end at the stones and bricks and mortar, to be honest.
Okay.
Beyond that. Such roofing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The roof. There's so many stories we could tell you. It's safe to say
a whole different thing. But
we're very lucky your best mate's an electrician.
Well done. That's a great thing to bring.
Yeah. So that was really the impetus was we're like, this building has to be a yoga studio. And we met so many people since opening the studio that said, we came and looked through the building and we loved it. And we tried to think what we could do with it, and we couldn't come up with anything.
Because it's a weird building. Like, it's perfect for what we're using it for, but, you know, a very odd building for probably most other applications. So, yeah, a lot of our now students looked through it and then said, oh, I wanted to buy it, but I thought, what am I going to do with it? But it's perfect as a yoga studio.
Yeah. So that was it really. And we bought the building in, about April or something, 2019.
I think we got the keys in August. I don't know why. I think it's August. But...
possibly. And we also got married in
November
that year. So we were I remember vividly, we were both working full time. And we were there every night, every weekend, taking days off work, you know, putting in as much labor as we could. And, you know, I think it was on a weekend, you know, we'd be there from 6 o'clock in the morning through to 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then completely exhausted, right, that's it, let's go home. And then it's like, oh, we need to practice our wedding dance. So, still without boots and high-vis gear after working God knows how many hours we're doing out.
We danced a lot in the yoga studio.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Was it the polka? What was it?
It was very fancy.
It was quite fancy. Neither of us dance, and all our friends and family know that. So we decided to say, oh, we're not doing a first dance, because it was quite a non-traditional wedding in many ways. Oh, we're not doing a first dance. We told everyone. In the meantime, we had a whole bunch of lessons and learned quite a fancy swooshy dance and surprised them all. So.
Congratulations. And by then you were both looking trim, taut and terrific, because you've been working ridiculously.
Yeah.
In your spare time.
And everything.
Yeah, I lost a bunch of weight doing that. I was climbing up and down scaffolding about 100 times a day.
Yes. We were both very slim between all the movement and the stress.
Yeah.
I think, it speaks to exactly what we're doing here, which is creating a podcast and a YouTube video called Yodiligence, and the love, blood, sweat and tears that go into creating, running, operating a yoga studio are quite substantial for most people in different ways, but there you go. First you had the bricks and mortar and you put it all together, and then you opened your doors on January the 31st. Did you have a party? How did you open?
We did a lot of promotion in the lead up. There's lots of people running wonderful yoga classes in like a very small scale, as I was doing before we opened the studio. So, rent a little space and run maybe 1 or 2 classes a week. So there was a fair bit of that in the Perth Hills, but there was no kind of dedicated yoga studio that had, 4 or 5 classes a day and memberships and, like the flexibility of a yoga studio. So we were sort of, you know, doing a lot of promotion and lead up, and there was lots of interest, which seemed good.
I remember vividly, for our honeymoon, we went to Lombok, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Lombok.
Spent a week in Lombok, and yeah, we'd been working so hard on all the physical work on the building. We hadn't really had a lot of time to put into the brand and marketing. We've both got a pretty strong background in that area. And so we spent the week in Lombok. We'd get up in the morning, we'd practice some yoga. There was a yoga class there each morning. And then we had our laptops. We'd sit by the pool all day and work on the website.
The honeymoon.
Yeah.
You guys are Yodiligence itself.
Yeah.
And did you come up with this beautiful little logo during your honeymoon?
You came up with that logo.
Yeah.
It got finessed by a fancy branding person, but your original looked very similar to
Yeah, which is odd because I have zero creative ability, but for some reason I managed to come up with this, which was nice. And it ties into our brand quite nicely and the Perth Hills vibe, which is great. But yeah, we did a launch special, which was well priced. I can't remember exactly how much it was.
21 days of unlimited yoga for $21.
There you go.
Good Lord, $1 a day.
$1 a day, and a little bit of a competition in there as well for the person that attended the most classes over the 21 days, but 50% off a membership for life.
What an offer.
Yeah, that's a bit of an incentive. And I said my background is in tech, among other things. And I said to Mel, do you think many people will want to buy this? Because if you think there's interest, I can build a checkout and a credit card thing, and it'll all be very streamlined and automated and hands-off. But it'll take me some time to build it. Or if you think maybe like 10 people will buy it or 15 people, then we can just send out invoices, and that'll be a better use of time than me building an automated checkout thing. And Mel said, no, I think there's going to be some interest in this. I think, you know.
So I think I remember saying, I think 50 people are going to buy.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a lot of interest on social media. A lot of people already joined our mailing list, and you're like, come on, 50?
50 people.
And I'm like, no, I really think we're going to have 50.
So I built the checkout thing and made it all automated and fancy. How many did we have?
Like 150.
Yeah.
Whoa, that is so exciting.
Just another confirmation that, you know, universally my wife is right, and I always listen to her.
So is she the optimist in the relationship here?
No, she's just always right.
Okay, that's a fine quality, Mel. Very fine.
It's not true. It's a lie.
Okay, so here you are, 4 years down the track. You've put the studio up. You've had an avalanche of people join. Now, how's it going? How are you feeling about it all?
It's going great.
Yeah, it's going really well. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. Well, one of the benefits that we had during that COVID time, when things were really uncertain right at the beginning, and it was really hard to know, to foresee what was coming next for everyone. We were so lucky that Mel was really active in some Facebook groups for US studio owners, because obviously they were a bit further down the curve than we were at the time, and even more so with us being in WA. And she said to me, hey, look, I think, you know,
I think I said, I think we're going to have to close. Or I think I even said, I think we should close.
Yeah.
It actually was prior to any government mandates happening. But I think I was seeing what was happening. And I remember it was Italy was really bad at the start, and the US. And I was saying to him, I think either we're going to have to close, but even if not, I think we should close. I don't, it doesn't feel right to jam 22 people into a room together while this is
breathing.
While this is all kicking off.
Yeah.
Like,
what type of yoga do you teach? Is it heavy breath yoga?
we do have some vinyasa classes and slow, you know, a lot of gentle, restful classes, but, you know, we kind of run the whole gamut up to vinyasa style. So yeah, huffing and puffing and all of that. So
yeah, so we looked at this, and because Mel was just that little bit ahead of the ball, she's like, we should buy a camera, we should buy a tripod, we should buy a wireless mic, get all this stuff now. And we were probably a week or two ahead.
Not even, like a week max.
A week max of everyone going, shit, we need to get all this stuff sorted now. And then everything was sold out.
Wow.
And so we were ahead there a little bit. And also because I have that tech background, it just made it all very easy. And we had other studios that we'd taught at in the past calling us and saying, can you help us, transition to online, which we were happy to do and give advice and help other studios out. But we were really lucky there, and our community
rallied.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We gave people the option of dropping their membership price to a lower level, or continue, or cancel, or whatever. And the community was really great. So we kept the lights on, which was fantastic.
But I think they probably needed you as much as you needed them. It was all a bit of a tricky time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was only recently I was reflecting on it with a few students. I don't think I told you this. We were all talking about it, and they were like, that was such a weird time, but it was like, you guys were a lifeline, because even in that 7 weeks only that we'd been open, we'd already built such a strong community, and then everyone, everything was so uncertain, and it was this familiarity of like, I can still practice yoga with my favorite teacher, even from home. And we did a massive order of props and yoga props, and drove around the Perth Hills doing contactless deliveries to people's houses. So, dropping a bolster, like, don't open the door, like, I'll just drop the bolster, at your front door, and so people could, because we teach very, very accessible yoga, and we use a lot of props in our classes. So just pivoting to online without people having props was quite challenging. So everyone was like, right, I'll get my yoga props. And
I think we even lent out our studio props.
I think we did. Yeah, because we weren't using them. Yeah,
it's not open, so we just
as long as they promised to wash them from one end to the other.
Exactly, that's right. So
so it's been a journey. We had, for the first couple of years, it was just an upward trajectory, which I'm sure other people in similar situations like ours, I mean, it'd be a different scenario, I imagine, if we opened up in the CBD or in an area where there was already a lot of competition between existing studios. To open in a new venue in that environment would be instantly challenging. We were very lucky. But, after about 2 years, we realized, we can't just rely on word of mouth. We have to do marketing. We have to invest. We have to advertise. We have to optimize. We've worked with
learn a lot.
Yeah, we had to learn a lot. We worked with a consultant out of the US and automated so much. But we've hit quite a nice, just consistency.
Oh, is it just you two teaching, or?
No, we have 6 other teachers.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you really need systems.
Yeah, and one of them, who is our studio manager now, which was like the most life-changing thing we ever did, was hiring.
Isn't it great having a studio manager?
Oh, she is incredible. Like, she's just wonderful. And to have so much of that day-to-day pressure taken off has been so beneficial for our sanity and our mental health and our life and our relationship and everything else. But on top of that, so good for the business, because it frees us up to be thinking bigger picture and setting up those automations and thinking about bringing in leads. And so it was a huge investment, obviously, to hire someone, and we really believe in treating all of our staff well and paying them all well. So it was a huge investment, but well worth it.
Also important, because the style of yoga that we teach is pretty similar. We've had a very similar trajectory in terms of training. Our other teachers bring different styles and different
passions.
Passions and focuses to their teaching. And what I teach isn't going to resonate with some people, and what our studio manager Cate teaches will resonate more with those people, and vice versa. And I think having that diversity in our teaching team is a really big benefit to the business.
Yeah. Also, we would die if we taught 25 classes a week between us, which is, I think, how many classes we have at the moment on the schedule.
At one ugly point, I was teaching 35 a week myself, and it was, and trying to bring up 2 kids, single mothering, and it was just like,
and how so impossible to keep up your own practice and your own passion, I think, for the practice when you're only giving in that way. Like, that's so challenging.
And as of course, it's not just 35 hours. It's much much more than that, being there before, after, planning.
Chatting, students want to chat after, which is lovely, but, it takes up time and all of that.
I'm very fond of saying or thinking about the fact I feel like we're modern day priests, I guess, for church, or whatever, the medical person that holds or the healer or something. People come to you, don't they, as a yoga teacher and ask you those curly questions about physical, mental, spiritual, whatever it is. So
after a class where, often there is this kind of like awakening or epiphany or something that happens, people are in that space. Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does open them up, and that's what yoga does. I mean, yoga is about going right to the edge and then stepping a little across it, and that's new territory for people. So of course they're going to be asking and wanting guidance. Yeah. Well, you must be doing your job well. Well done.
Hope so.
So now, do you consider yourself a green studio? I mean, obviously you've got LovEarth mats, so that's fabulous. Yeah. What other thoughts do you have around greenery, greening?
Yeah, we do consider. We were talking about this actually just recently.
Logo.
Yeah.
Very, beautiful.
Actually, just touching on the mats for the moment, and obviously we love them.
Thank you.
When we opened the studio, we both had LovEarth mats for our own practice. In fact, I'm looking at my old mat, which has been retired at the moment, and it's on the floor in our lounge room with our dog beds on it to anchor when our crazy dogs are running around playing and the beds slide all over the room. So that's now taken on a new purpose.
They have so many purposes.
Yeah.
They're the best, aren't they? In that way that you can do so much with them. I could tell you some funny stories, but a lot of them, I just took a load of 40 mats to the dingo den down here for dingo. They rescue dingoes that are going through a hard time.
Yeah,
I think there's that deep bond between man and dog, even if that dog is a dingo, which isn't really a dog. I don't know what you think about that. Anyway, they like that smell of sweat. I think.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Makes sense. Wow, that's amazing. So we opened up, and we'd been to lots of different studios to get inspiration and ideas, and something that was super common was having a whole bunch of studio mats that people could use, so they didn't have to have their own mats. And we looked at this and we're like, well, we can't afford to buy 20 LovEarth mats because they're expensive, as is fair enough, because they're great quality. But we didn't want to go to Kmart and buy a bunch of cheap,
or even the more prestigious, we looked at some of the not Kmart-y mats, better quality mats, but they're still plastic. We're like, we don't want to buy 20, 24 plastic mats.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Yeah.
We didn't want to contribute to that. It's not part of our ethos. So we bought 5 LovEarth mats, studio mats, and then said, right, because we believe in these, we're going to sell these. If you come into the studio without a mat, you can hire a mat for a couple of dollars, use that mat, and then pretty universally people say, oh, wow, that's really nice.
So good.
So I'll buy one.
I'm going to buy one for myself.
So it went well for us. We didn't have to, we just didn't have the finances at that point to buy a lot of mats for the studio, and it's nice to have your own mat.
I think
totally. So. I think being able to create that ritualistic place in your own home and to take that from studio to home and translate is just fundamental, really.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we really decided that wasn't what we wanted to offer, even if finances were no barrier.
Yeah, that's right.
And even just waste. We were talking about this recently. We actually generate so little waste at the studio that we don't actually have a waste service at the studio. We don't pay the council for a waste service. We don't have bins. We have one bin a week that we have to empty, that we just bring home and put in our own bin because we don't generate much waste at home either.
Right.
And recycling, of course. But we're really proud of that. We're not a very quiet small studio. I think we have around 350-ish unique people that come through the studio doors every month. So hundreds of people are coming through. But we generate one garbage bag a week.
Congratulations. Living the green. It's really, really good.
we do what we can. There's always room to improve. I think I don't think we'll ever reach a level of, perfection in practice, in self, in living a green life at the studio. But yeah, we're constantly trying to improve.
And like even to the point of if we ever serve food at the studio, because sometimes we bake little treats or we have community. We're really big about community at Stone's Throw Yoga and trying to build community. So we have community lunches. The food is always vegan. I mean, we personally are vegan, and from an ethical standpoint, of course, ahimsa, everything else, but obviously from an environmental perspective as well. So we just have a commitment, and we're not judgy, and we don't push anything on anyone. And of course, people can eat whatever they want to eat, but if they're being served food at our studio, on our retreats, wherever it may be, the food is always vegan as well.
Beautiful choice. Really beautiful choice. Yeah. And, I'm sad to say, I mean, it's so fabulous to hear these kind of stories, but I'm very sad to say that in the last 11 years of pottering along with LovEarth, we've collected 7,000 yoga mats and the tide has not stemmed yet. So we've been trying to get the word out there, which is one of the reasons that we're getting so serious. So for example, 2 days ago, I collected 36 grey PVC yucky mats from a company that they'd used for their client yoga class event. And then, but the good news is one single use, I believe. Yeah. But then they've sent it over to us, which is fabulous. And we've given them to the cancer support wellness people up in the Blue Mountains in Sydney. So, it goes round, but it's still very, very sad that those choices are being made. So we've now started renting out the mats in the hope that that people will make better choices. And then, if they're only going to use it once, then please don't go to Kmart. And yeah, and so if you ever have, I mean, it sounds like you're making great use of your pre-loved yoga mats anyway, but if your students want to send them back, just let us know.
Right.
Yeah, we can collect them, or in your case, I'm not going to be driving up to Perth to collect them, but we do have people that we send pre-loved mats to in Perth, in WA. In particular, can I remember the name of that group? No, not right now, but it's a great sport group that goes out all the way through Western Australia in Aboriginal communities and does yoga and every other kind of sport. Not that yoga is a sport, and we've often given our mats to them. And if they're really shoddy, then we give them to animal shelters, as described before. So
maybe we can do a bit of collection with our students. Got an old yoga mat you need to get rid of. If we can kind of. Rather than just one off, so we can collect a whole bunch, then that, fabulous.
Please do. The idea is for none of them to go into landfill before they're absolutely tragic. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we should kind of wrap things up, but I just wanted to ask you if you had one big message for all the yogis out there listening and people are thinking about yoga. Any?
A couple of things come to mind, actually. I think a big part of our success part of it is where we're located, and the demographic in this area is, of course, always a factor. I think the fact that it is the two of us heading up the studio has made yoga more kind of accessible. Accessible is not even really the word. It's made men feel more comfortable to come in and practice yoga, and we have so many men. I ran a meditation class on Tuesday evening, and there was more guys in the room than ladies.
Unusual.
Absolutely amazing. And meditation and pranayama practice, which was just fantastic. And yeah, we've got a lot of men that come and practice, and a lot of older men that are trying yoga for the first time in their lives, and over and over again, we hear how this has changed their lives. They can't believe how good they feel in body and in mind. And not just men, but, our demographic is so broad, from kids yoga up to people in their 80s, actively practicing like vigorous classes with us.
My favorite ever, I think it was one of your classes, and our old booking software used to list people's ages next to, their name in the attendance.
Yeah.
And I looked at this class in the afternoon, and it was a, reasonably challenging class too, physically. And the age range was from someone in their teens, I think about 16, and the oldest was in their early 80s, and then everything in between. And we were like, yes, we've done it. That's all we ever wanted to create. Like, we're so big on yoga is for everyone, and unfortunately yoga isn't represented that way, in image, in the West, and in social media and everything. And so, like, all we ever wanted to do was make yoga accessible for everyone, for the average person who maybe never even thought of yoga as something that could impact on their life. And we're really proud that we've worked really hard to, when we couldn't find stock photos of diverse people, we paid one of our students, who's an amazing artist, to create line drawings of, men and women, older, younger, bigger bodies, smaller bodies, pregnant bodies. So we're like, well, we can't get this imagery, so we're going to create it, and then we held photo shoots with our actual students, so that we had imagery of your average person practicing yoga. Yeah. And so, I think that's our message, is like, yoga is truly for everyone. And obviously you have to find a studio that resonates with you, and every studio is wonderful for different reasons, and every studio isn't going to resonate with everyone, but it really is for everyone. It's not just for, the image of what you see on social media. And, I think it's really important for teachers as well, and studios to do what they can as well, right? To make sure that then when that person turns up to your class, that it is actually for them as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's such a good parting message. Thank you. The open and warm invitation to men, because, the usual ratio is a little disappointing out there. But likewise, I've taught yoga for years. I hadn't done any more, to a cement company with all the truck drivers, and
Amazing.
my favorite job ever that was, and all because they needed it and they hadn't exposed themselves to it, and they'd do a few classes, suddenly their backs were fixed, they started to sleep, they felt better. It was a beautiful thing. So I really, really appreciate you spreading that message about men, and the fact that yoga is for everybody. And my feeling is that yoga is for everybody, and if everybody did yoga, wow, what a world this would be. So let's hope it happens.
Absolutely. And thank you, Cate, for creating. I mean, we really love LovEarth. Like, we loved LovEarth as students. We loved it as teachers before we owned a studio, and we love it now as studio owners. And the story that I tell when people go to buy a mat or are thinking about buying a mat now, I can quantify the quality of the mats, because the student who won that competition, remember we said we ran that 3-week competition, the student that won it and there's 2 in the end. Yeah, they tied, and we gave it to both of them because they earned it. They each did like 43 classes, I think, or something in 3 weeks, which is obviously insane, but thankfully they're not all vinyasa classes, lots of gentle stuff too. One of the students, he bought a LovEarth mat way back, day one practically in 2020, and then probably about 6-8 months ago, his mat was starting to degrade and all of that, and he was ready to buy a new one. And I thought, I'm going to look up at how many classes have you done, because he practices a lot, and he'd done just about 500 classes on the mat. So yeah, about 500 hours of practice on his LovEarth mat before it was finally starting to degrade and he was ready for his new one. So that's what I always tell students who are thinking about buying it, like, 500 hours. It's going to last you a long time.
500 hours, and then you can go out your back door and throw it over your carrot patch and stop the weeds.
Exactly. That's right. I'm always like, there's no plastic. You can compost it. The dyes are not ruining the environment. Everyone in the supply chain is treated properly. Like, it ticks every single box. And that's like everything we sell in our retail space has to, fit our principles of, being ethical and as much as possible local or Australian made and environmentally friendly and all of those things. And I love that LovEarth just fits there perfectly. So thank you.
Well, bless you. Bless you, bless you. Thank you for incorporating us. And thank you for making time and dealing with the time difference between where you are in Perth and I am down here in New South Wales. Really, really appreciate it, and hope we get to talk about something meaningful again soon.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Cate.